make another video that I have to bullshit the whole time. Hey Marty, how are you? What's up guys, David here, 1, 2, and 2, and it's list day! Ah, yes, this stopped. What are you doing?
Oh, it's a kitty.
You're gonna pollute my audio. What's on your face?
What are you doing? What are you getting into? No, come here.
And for Top Tuesday, we are going to finish off my top 10 worst pendulum cards in the game, and it's going to be a doozy because I didn't get a chance to actually talk to Ryan about any of these, so we are just going to BS our way through it once again. So again, I challenge you guys down in the comment section below to tell me whether or not the, just me taking these cards at face value and using my best educated guess and my knowledge to the game to see if I can explain to you why these cards just aren't very good. Because like I said in the previous installment, I don't play Pendulum much, so I know how they work. I could play the deck if you put it in front of me, but I wouldn't be able to play it very well, because I just don't have a ton of practice. So, you know, I understand it enough to talk about it, but not necessarily to be an expert about it, as well as know more niche card interactions. So like, I'd be like, oh, this card is bad, oh, except when you use it with this, and then it's actually pretty good, and that's actually something all the Pendulum decks, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, sure, let's get started. DD Savant Galilei. Bet you thought I was gonna not pronounce that right. I actually am not entirely sure I did, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be like Galileo, Galilei. Galilei. This dark level 10 fiend with a 0/0 attack defense spread. Oh boy. What makes this guy number 5? You cannot pendulum summon monsters except DDD monsters. This effect cannot be negated. A lot of these, like, this reminds me of a lot of the old Pendulum cards. Like, when they first came out, they make sure you didn't, like, tech them into other decks. They would apply this really annoying restriction where you could only Pendulum summon monsters of that archetype. So, this is cute to see on the card. But also, during every standby phase, you increase this thing's Pendulum scale by 2. It maxes out at its scale of 10. And when you do, you destroy all monsters on your side of the field that are not DDD monsters, whose level is under or equal to the current Pendulum scale of this monster. Well, this is really fun because it does really nothing to help you whatsoever. It only hurts you. As a scale 1, that means this thing is your low scale in the deck, and if you were trying to pendulum summon in DDs, which, you know, they don't tend to do that anyway, you don't want your low scale modulating, because it's your low scale. The next turn after you play this thing, it goes to a scale 3, and I'm like 90% sure that already starts cutting off the good DD monsters you are trying to get on the field, so that's just not an effect you want for a pendulum scale. Mostly because the only time that this effect would ever be useful is if once it gets to like a 10, it can become your high scale. You know, 3 to 5 turns later or whatever it would be. It's got a monster effect though. During either player's turn, you can discard this card. Hey, it's a hand trap. It lets you bounce one DD monster or one Dark Contract card from your field back to your hand. Okay. Quick effect. Bouncing of face-up monsters or spell or traps is always okay. That kind of effect in this game lends itself to being loopy, and you might end up getting some weird combos out of this, but just from face value, I'm not entirely positive DDs would actually be really wanting to do that. I guess the idea is that you could bounce a Dark Contract so you don't take the life point damage during the standby phase. That's cute, I suppose. It just seems like a really unnecessary minus that the deck just really doesn't need to play. Abyss Actor Funky Comedian. It's basically me if I was a monster card and green and fat. Well, he is a level 1 Dark Fiend with what, like 300 attack, 200 defense, and a scale 8, which, okay, fine. That's good. I know nothing about Abyss Actors, but I do know scale 8s tend to be very useful high scales. So that's a plus for him. But what does this effect do? Once per turn, you contribute 1 Abyss Actor monster, then target 1 other Abyss Actor monster that you control, and that monster gains the original attack of the monster attributed until the end of the turn. Oh, yay. You can minus yourself for a big attack boost. Now, what is weird about the language of this card, it says tribute 1 Abyss Actor monster, then to target 1 Abyss Actor monster that you control. So, does that mean you can tribute one of your opponent's Abyss Actor monsters? It doesn't specify. I'm gonna go under the assumption that you can't, and even if you could, that would be implying you would ever have a mirror match. Ever. That will never happen. But okay, you know, a lot of these, you know, scrub tier pendulum archetypes always have all their pendulum monsters have attack modulation effects for like the pendulum scale. So, you know, we don't really care about that. Most of them redeem themselves with the monster effect. So let's go. When this card is normal or special summon, you can make it gain attack for every Abyss Actor monster that you currently control. Abyss Actor monster you currently control until the end of the turn. Okay, more attack modulation. And then once per turn, you can target one of the other Abyss Actor monsters you control, and that monster gains this card's current attack until the end of the turn. Oh wow, it's like it gets a boost when it hits the field, and then it gives all that boost in its own 300 attack power to somebody else, and you presumably swing with a big beater. Now, I have no idea what Abyss Actors are trying to do. I've probably read one card by them, this card, but I can honestly tell you that in a Pendulum deck, I'm assuming that, you know, just attack, swarm, swing for game that can't be their strategy. They must exceed or something, right? So I'm gonna go on a limb and assume that Ryan put this one on the list simply because it's a mediocre attack boost that goes into another mediocre attack boost for what we assume would be a very clunky win condition. And the art's bad. The art is terrible. Like, what is that? Ew. It wouldn't be a pendulum list without a Performa Pal shoved on there, and between the last part and this one, they got two representatives. Because there's a lot of Performa fails. Performa fails. I didn't even mean to say that. Performa Pal Gum Gum Mutan. He's a level 5 Earth Beast. With 900 attack and 2400 defense. Damn. Got a Gum got big booty. What does this thing do? Well, its monster effect and its pendulum effect are exactly the same thing, which is interesting because that means no matter where this card is, whether it's in a scale or in the field, you could rely on its effect. Its Gum is a reliable stacked set of sheep, I guess. Is it mutton? Is it not muton? Is it mutton? Like, is that what mutton is? And what is that effect that applies no matter where it is? Once per turn, when an attack is involving one monster that you control, you can target that monster and it can't be killed by battle or card effects until the end of the turn. Okay, so he ends up being like a negate attack or something, kind of. Not really. Again, I think this thing suffers the same problem as a Funky Comedian, where its effect isn't awful, it's just it doesn't really seem to do what a Pendulum deck is trying to do. In this case, a Pendulum deck isn't gonna play a monster, sit on it, then put this thing in a scale and say, you can't kill my unkillable Performa Pal trampled links. That's just not what Performa Pals are really trying to do, so this thing just doesn't seem to have much of a home in its own deck. However, I will give it kudos. This thing could be a probably semi-searchable, right? Being a Pendulum, a Beast, an Earth, a Performa Pal. I'm sure there's things you can use to get at this. And you can stick it in one of those Protect the Castle decks, like Fossil Dyna and in Tiny Turtle and things like that. Yeah, you can just put one of your floodgate things like Ryo on the field and throw this in a scale, and your opponent can't just smash over it to get rid of the floodgate effect. I suppose if that's what you're trying to do, okay. And it would also protect it against things like Regeki. However, you know, they'd have to swing at it first and then use Regeki. So, I take it back. But hey, you know what? It's a bad Pendulum card, but it's an okay back row, I guess. Okay. Numero dos. Oh man, we're getting down to the wire here. And I am in no better condition to explain these cards than I was before, so we're just gonna get to it. PM Captor! PM Captor stands for Pendulum Captor, believe it or not. Yes, it's not Pendulum Monster Captor, it's just Pendulum Captor. It's the P at the beginning of Pendulum and the M at the end of Pendulum. I learned that from the wiki. And the reason why they know that is because in the other languages where they translate Pendulum into other, like Spanish and French and things like that, the last letter in the word isn't always an M. It's like an L or an O or whatever, and then this thing's name reflects that. So, Oh, I learned something. Interesting naming convention aside, the card stinks. When you pendulum summon a zombie monster, you can activate this effect. PM is a dark level 4 zombie, which, you know, that's some solid typing. Being a scale 5 means he's high scale. And for most zombie cards like Mizuki and Unizombie, him being a scale 5 is perfectly fine, I suppose. But that means in like decks maybe you'd want to be able to pendulum summon a zombie, like in vampires, because they're big and harder to get on the field more reliably because you can't just slap them down. This thing sucks! And an 1800 at 0, I mean, that's like zombie stats, okay. But what does it do? When you pendulum summon a zombie type monster, you can activate this effect. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect until the end of the turn. Wait, so when I pendulum summon a zombie, because I'm even doing that, it becomes immune to battle and destruction effects? Whoop-de do. Now, I want to really break this down as to why this effect is stupid, and it's not just because, you know, battle and destruction effect is kind of a mediocre self-defense, because it is, but that's not where it is. It's the fact that this activates. How annoying. That's such poor card design. If this was a continuous effect that just said, you know, the turn that a zombie monster is pendulum summoned and it can't be killed by battle or card effects, this card would be at least okay. But the fact that it activates an effect means your opponent has, like, yeah, they can ghost ogre it or something goofy if they really, really had to, and this was like a problem, like, because they're playing True Draco and they're worried about not being able to masterpiece pop your ill blood you just pendulum summoned. Can you pendulum summon ill blood? Is that a 5 or a 6? I don't remember. But seriously, why'd they make this an activating effect? It's just so cheesy and dumb and opens it up to a bunch of negation and garbage. But okay, fine. It also has a monster effect. If this card destroys a monster by battle, you can take one pendulum monster from your graveyard and add it back to your hand. Man, it's like Wisdom Eye's monster effect, but terrible. Is Wisdom Eye the one that adds one back from the graveyard? I'm pretty sure it's Wisdom Eye, because I'm pretty sure Wisdom Eye actually has a monster effect that just nobody uses. But yeah, this is a really, really, really terrible form of recursion. I'm not gonna say, well, you know, a pendulum monster in the graveyard is stuck there. It's bad for them to be there. You want them in the extra deck so you can pendulum summon them again. Yes, I know that. So putting them in your hand is good. Yes, I know that. But hear me out. If something has gone so wrong that your pendulum monster ended up in the graveyard and not the extra deck, they either got like solemn stricken when you pendulum summoned, or I guess you could have detached for material. But even still, normally, pendulum monsters in your graveyard are a sign that something bad has happened, something has gone wrong, one of your plays has gone south. So your only means that your deck is running to get that monster out of your graveyard is to normal summon a 1800 beater and smash into something and get it back. If something is going wrong, your opponent probably has a board that is unbreakable, and it's probably a bunch of big stupid monsters like Crystal Wing and Infinity and all these other big bad mamma jammas that an 1800 beater isn't going to help. And even if it did, like, what an awful thing for this thing to do. Hell, this thing could say when this thing is normal summon, just add one back from the grave, and even then, this still wouldn't be a very good pendulum card. But the fact that it's like battle recruiter, basically, except like the other way around, a reverse Mystic Tomato, this thing is just terrible. But whatever, it's a zombie, it's got 0, it's a dark, its typing's good. Maybe it'll see play for what it is, not what it does sometime. One of those stupid things. Last but not least, metronome. Oh yes, I saved the best one for last. The one with a pun in its name. It didn't take me very long to figure out why Ryan put this one on the list, and it didn't take me very long to determine that this thing should be number 1. Well, before I do that, I will give credit where credit is due. He has an 1800 attack, 1600 defense, attack defense spread. Those are pretty good for level 4. I've seen lots of level 5s with those stats, so okay, fine, metronome. Whatever, what do you do? Once per turn, you can target one other card in a pendulum zone. This card's pendulum scale becomes that pendulum scale until the end of the turn. Okay, well, it doesn't say you have to target your own, so if your opponent's got a scale that you need, and you can just play this thing and get it, and oh look, I can pendulum summon again. But that would be assuming you're playing a mirror match, a pendulum mirror match, which you are probably not. But even if you are, that you can't rely on your opponent doing anything ever for your card effects to work. That's just bad Yu-Gi-Oh! If your cards need your opponent to do something, they will never work, or your opponent will just simply not do it, and then you will lose the duel. It happens every time. Which means that most of the time you're probably targeting your own pendulum scale. Which is great because this thing's scale 4, and being a level 4 is absolute utter garbage. You never want your scale to be the same as your level, because that means if you draw 2, you can't pendulum summon it, and frankly, a 4 scale is just a garbage scale for pendulums in general, because level 4 monsters are the best monsters. They make all the best synchros and they make all the best succeeds. So why the hell would you make a freaking scale 4 anyway? Breathe, Dave. So this thing's ability to modulate its own scale is really, really cute. It could just have a different scale and no effect, and that would be better, but okay. But let's just take a moment to collect our thoughts here and realize that the biggest flaw in the design of this card is, most of the time, not only are you targeting your own pendulum scale to make this thing have the same scale, when you do that, you can no longer pendulum summon, because your scales are exactly the same thing. You could have 2 8s, 2 1s, 2 4s for Pete's sake, and it doesn't matter, you can't pendulum summon. Why? So yeah, ideally you're targeting your opponent's scale to make your scales good so that you can pendulum summon, but you could have just done that anyway by not running this card and running something else and having the appropriate balance of highs and lows in your deck. Oh boy. What does its monster effect do? While the 2 cards in your pendulum zones have the same scale, this thing gains attack and defense equal to that scale number times 100. And it can attack directly. And then if it does battle damage to your opponent's life points, you destroy the 2 scales that you have. Oh my god, it's like the stupidest OTK engine ever. If you could somehow scale like 2 12s, and then you could play this thing, it would have an extra 1200 attack, meaning this thing maxes out at 3k. That's not even an OTK, that's just stupid. And then it nukes your own scales. That's so dumb. It's like, a pendulum effect is, it makes your scales the same thing, so you can't pendulum summon. And then its monster effect is, if you are in that stupid situation, this thing can punch your opponent for some damage and then get you out of that stupid situation that the other copy of it in your deck puts you in the first place. I have no idea what your deck is trying to do, but it is not certainly trying to win. It's metronome. Oh boy. But anyway guys, that was the list. I hope you enjoyed it. I can't go on about these anymore. These were actually really frustrating for me because I know enough to understand that these cards are terrible. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think, and if Ryan and I missed any bad pendulum monsters, and just stick those in the comments and we'll be glad to make fun of those just as much. And remember guys, if you don't troll the meta, who will? I will see you guys next time. Ooh boy.
Oh, hey losers. What are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Wanna watch something else? Hurry up and choose one of these. Ugh. When are you gonna make a choice? This year would be nice.